pull up a chair for a second. Let's just be honest about where we are. If you've been spending your nights lately polishing your resume, tweaking every bullet point, and hitting that easy apply button 50 times a day, only to hear absolutely nothing but silence, I need to tell you something your boss won't. You aren't failing because you're unqualified. You aren't failing because you're not working hard enough. You're failing because you're working at a human speed in an AI-paced world. Look, I've been in this industry for 15 years. I've seen the cycles, but what's happening right now in 2026? It's different. I'm seeing people with incredible backgrounds, people who were top performers just 2 years ago, suddenly hitting an invisible wall. The data is starting to reflect the frustration you're feeling. The average job search duration has climbed to nearly 25 weeks. That's 6 months of wondering if you're still relevant. And here's the number that really bothers me. 26% of all job seekers are now officially in the long-term unemployed category. That's the highest we've seen in years. When I talk to people in this position, they feel like they've lost their edge. They think they need another master's degree or another certification. But the problem isn't your resume. The problem is that the systems on the other side of that submit button have been upgraded, and the way you're applying is still stuck in 2022. You're being flagged as a high-latency liability before a human even sees your name. It sounds cold, I know, but if working harder isn't the answer, what is that invisible wall that's actually keeping you out? Let's talk about what's actually going on behind the curtain. I want you to take a breath and really hear this next part because it changes the stakes. We've entered the era of auto-rejection. Most people think their resume is being read by a recruiter who's maybe a bit tired or rushed. In reality, about 91% of large companies are using AI to do the screening for them. That's not the surprise. We've known about algorithms for a while. The surprise is how they're using them now. About 1 in 5 companies has turned on auto-rejection protocols. This means the AI isn't just ranking you, it's deleting you. No human ever sees your face. No human ever reads your story. 73% of resumes are filtered out before a recruiter even knows you exist. Let that number sit for a second. 73%. When I first saw that data, it honestly changed how I think about the whole hiring process. We've been taught to stack our resumes with hard skills and certifications. We think if we just show we know Python or project management, we're safe. But in 2026, those technical skills, they've become a commodity. The AI can do the technical output. What the gatekeepers are actually looking for now is something they call systemic harmonization. They aren't looking for your degree, they're looking for your rhythm. They want to know if you can sync with their automated systems or if you're going to be a bottleneck. Here's the twist. While you're trying to prove you can do the work, they're trying to figure out if you can manage the machine that does the work. So, if the gatekeepers have changed the rules, what do the people who are actually winning, the ones hitting those $350,000 salaries, know that you don't? I've spent the last few months looking at the orchestrators. These are the professionals who stopped trying to be the best cogs in the machine and started owning the controls, and the results they're getting are staggering. Let's look at the fractional orchestrator framework. I recently spoke with a group of fractional CTOs working in manufacturing. Instead of taking one 9-to-5 job for $200,000 a year, they're taking on 3 or 4 clients. They've implemented what we call bio-digital twins, systems that automate the 24/7 operations. Because they've automated the output, they only need to provide about 10 hours of high-level rhythm management per week. Their average retainer? Somewhere between $15,000 and $22,000 a month per client. Do the math on that. They're earning more than $300,000 a year while working less than 40 hours a week. It's the same thing with AI-augmented legal pros. They aren't spending nights reviewing documents anymore, they've pivoted to AI prompt orchestration. They're seeing a 50% salary premium because they've solved the latency problem. These people didn't just get lucky. They mastered a specific variable that AI has made more valuable than ever. The ability to trade volume for high-value impact. They realized that in a world of infinite AI output, the person who can direct the flow is the person who gets paid. And this isn't just about freelancing. It's about moving from a linear role, where you trade an hour for $1, to a fractional model where you trade your rhythm for a premium. Are you starting to see how this is disrupting your specific industry? There's a shift happening that most people are missing, and it's what I call the bio-digital shift. See, for decades, the equation was simple: time equals money. If you wanted to make more, you worked more. But in 2026, that equation is dead. The new math is rhythm equals value. AI isn't just a tool you use occasionally. It's a 24/7 engine. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't get burnt out when you try to work in a traditional 9-to-5 linear block. You become the latency. You become the slow part of the system. The winners right now are using something called asynchronous flow. They use their human energy for those high cognition peaks, those 2 or 3 hours a day where your brain is truly on fire, and they let AI agents handle the downtime. They've turned their latency into leverage. This is why AI specialized roles are commanding up to a 56% salary premium. It's not just because they know how to code, it's because they know how to synchronize their biological peaks with the AI's compute cycles. Occupations that are AI intensive are seeing wage growth 25% higher than everyone else. This is the part that changes everything. You don't need to compete with the speed of the machine. You need to provide the pulse that the machine follows. When you align your human intuition with automated execution, you become an apex predator in this market. You become the person the recruiters are actually desperate to find, not a worker, but a synchronizer. So how do you move from stuck to sync starting tomorrow morning? I don't want you to go out and sign up for another upskilling course. I want you to resync. First, we need to change how the world sees you. Go to your LinkedIn profile. If your headline is just your job title, like marketing manager or project lead, you're telling the AI you're a commodity. Change it to reflect systemic integration. Use words like orchestration, sync, and fractional flow. You want to signal that you manage systems, not just tasks. Second, I want you to adopt the Bio-Digital schedule. Identify your 3 peak hours, the time when you are most creative and sharp. Protect those hours like your life depends on them. For the rest of the day, your job is to manage the agents and the automations that do the heavy lifting. Finally, start shifting toward a fractional mindset. Even if you have a full-time job right now, start looking at your work as a series of high-value systems you manage. The people who are making $350,000 a year aren't working more hours than you. In fact, most of them are working less. But the hours they do work are the only ones that actually matter. I know this feels like a lot to take in, but the people who figure this out, they're the ones getting the callbacks. They're the ones who are no longer stressed about the easy apply button because they aren't playing that game anymore. This week, stop being a candidate. Start being a systemic integrator. You've got the experience, you've got the drive. Now you just need the rhythm. Go take the lead. I'll be here when you're ready for the next step.